Hey everyone, welcome to my channel where the strange, the unexplained, and the downright creepy come to life. From real-life encounters with the paranormal to bizarre, true stories that'll keep you up at night, I bring you the eerie tales you won't hear anywhere else. If you're into late-night chills, mysterious happenings, and things that go bump in the night, you're in the right place. Subscribe, buckle up, and let's dive into the unknown. I rounded the corner and froze. My breath caught in my throat. No, that can't be. That's not me. But there he was, me, walking down the street like he had every right to exist. Same build, same way of walking, even the scar on the bridge of his nose from when I fell off my bike as a kid. My mind screamed, "Man the hell up, Gary. Follow him. Make sure you're not losing it." So I did. At first, I hoped with everything in me, that I'd round the next corner and find someone else. Maybe someone vaguely similar, but not an exact copy. But when I followed, he was still there. Still me. He was on the phone, speaking in my voice. Same speech patterns. Same little habits, like how I paused before saying a name. He was talking to someone, no, not just anyone. He was talking to Mickey. My Mickey. The ex I hadn't seen in 5 years. The same Mickey who sold his gym the year we broke up. "What's the status with the gym?" my double asked, casual as anything. Friendly even. I felt sick. Why would he bring that up? Was he taunting Mickey? Reliving my life? What the hell was this? I followed for what felt like hours. It was probably only half an hour, but time had no meaning when you were stalking yourself. The sun was setting when he reached his destination. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't walk into my apartment building. He didn't. Instead, he went into a familiar building, the one I lived in before moving in with Jack. Back when I was still dating Mickey and going to college. I hated that place. It always felt wrong, like something was watching me from inside the walls. That apartment was why I moved out in the first place. And now he was there. I didn't follow him in. What could I have done? Burst through the door and screamed, "Why do you look like me?" That would have ended well. I went home instead, pretended everything was normal. But it wasn't. I kept seeing him, me, on the street, always just far enough that I couldn't confront him. Every time I followed. At night, I'd tell Jack I was going for a walk, but I'd end up outside the other me's apartment, staring in through the window, watching, waiting. I couldn't trust him. Whatever he was, he wasn't just someone who looked like me. He was me. And the more I watched, the more certain I became. People were being replaced. Delilah got her eye back. Fred's gold tooth vanished. People were changing, being swapped out. Their differences were small at first, barely noticeable, but the changes were real. The versions of them now weren't quite right. I don't know who to tell. I don't know if I can tell anyone. No one would believe me. They'd say I'm crazy. I've been watching myself for 2 months now. I don't know how long I have before he decides to take my place. Should I go on the offensive? Should I kill him first? Sounds insane, but maybe that's what he's waiting for, that hesitation, that crack in my resolve. All I know is this: if I end up dead, no one will care, because he'll be there, wearing my face, sleeping in my bed, holding Jack's hand, living my life. I wish I was just losing it. I wish I was crazy. Because that would be easier than this. That winter break, I kept quiet. My grades were a disaster, rock bottom, and any explanation involving creepy phone calls would have sounded like a pathetic excuse. So I said nothing. But when the spring semester started, I came back determined to pull it together. I told Bill I had to cool it with the parties and focus on school. That lasted, maybe one night, because that's when the first spring call came from CVG, the creepy voice guy. "How is your family in Cyprus?" My hometown. My family's town. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a prank anymore. What kind of psycho keeps up a prank for months with this much detail? I was surrounded by clowns, but none with that level of obsession. Then things got darker. The tone of the calls shifted from weird to threatening. "I'm very interested, Gary, in being close to you." That kind of unnatural phrasing became his signature. And the threats escalated. "I have tools I can bring. It will all be over soon." I started saving the messages. All of them. I don't know why. Maybe because when something happens slowly over time, it's easier to dismiss until you lay it all out. Then it hits you like a freight train. One night, I gathered Bill and the rest of the guys and played the full collection. They sat in stunned silence. Some of the calls got really specific. My parents' address, vivid descriptions of violence like slicing open my esophagus with a butter knife. And that was just the tip of it. At the same time, I'd reconnected with a girl from high school, Isla, through AIM. She went to a school hundreds of miles away. CVG had mentioned your friend in some calls, and eventually named her directly, your friend Isla. That freaked me out. She was the only person besides me to be named. Called her. She had no idea what was happening. Things were ramping up. One night, a bunch of us were partying at a hotel. My buddy Carl passed out after chugging a bottle of whatever. I hadn't really been drinking, so I swiped his keys to drive back to campus, planning to come get them in the morning. I wasn't a regular driver that year, so I took a wrong turn. Ended up on a pitch-black country road surrounded by empty fields. No lights, no buildings, no cars. Around 3 a.m., I hit a random four-way stop, completely unnecessary for a road barely anyone drove on, and finally made my way back to the highway. I didn't mention the detour to a soul. A few days later, CVG says, Gary, I saw you at the four-way stop. Wednesday, 3 a.m. That was it. I knew then I was being tracked. Somehow. I've worked military intel. I've tracked enemies across continents. And to this day, I still don't know how he knew where I was that night. By March, that moment, the four-way stop became a focus in his messages. They were now relentless. 10, 15 calls a day. I turned off the ringer and lowered the answering machine volume, but they kept piling up. Then came the message. We will meet in front of Coleman Hall. Wednesday, April 27th. Midnight. We'll take our friendship to the next level. That was Isla's birthday. Funny the details that stick with you. By this point, I'd become infamous on campus. The guy with the stalker. People came to my dorm just to hear the messages. Friends of friends, strangers at parties, it was a freak show. Honestly, the attention helped my dating life. Don't judge. April 27th drew closer. My dorm filled with testosterone and chaos. A legit horror story was playing out in real life, and every dude wanted to be part of it. We had 70 or 80 guys gathering in the common room that night, amped up on Mountain Dew and bad ideas. Despite the noise, I was terrified. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't some dorm drama. This was something else, something wrong. And I knew I had to go. I had to meet him. I'd always been in decent shape, wrestling, football, baseball. But this didn't feel like a fight. Felt like stepping into something way beyond me. This wasn't high school drama or some disgruntled friend. This was a deranged, calculating person who had made me his obsession. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, I told my platoon of 15 or 20 guys to stay inside. I didn't want to scare CVG off, but I needed backup in case things went sideways. Coleman Hall was about 300 steps from the girls' dorm connected to ours. I walked out alone. When midnight struck, I left the crowd behind and started the longest walk of my life. Coleman Hall was about 200 paces from our dorm's common area. My crew could see me at first, through the glass doors, but once I passed the front lawn and onto the path to Coleman, I'd be out of sight. About 100 paces out, I noticed two things at once. First, something moved, fast and low, near the building's patio walkway, which wrapped all the way around the hall. Second, it happened in the one shadowed corner where a normally blinding floodlight had gone out. I later found out someone had smashed the bulb. At first I wasn't sure how I even saw him, but my eyes caught just enough to pick out a figure, crouched low behind the neat row of shrubs, right against one of the patio's pillars. He wore dark clothes, hood up. He was just a few feet off from the exact meeting spot, half hidden and angled so perfectly in the shadows that I shouldn't have seen him at all. And yet, I did. He shifted when I jumped mid-step, rising just slightly, like he wasn't sure if I'd spotted him. Then he took a step toward me. That's when fight or flight kicked in. For me, it goes fight in mild stress, flight in serious danger, and something else entirely, something primitive when I sense real death. I ran. At him. I didn't even register what I was doing, but I sprinted straight toward the dark figure under the broken light. He must have seen what I couldn't. My crew charging out of the dorm behind me, finally noticing something was happening. He bolted around the patio and toward the parking lot behind the building. So much for my theory that he was some scrawny computer nerd. No, this guy was tall, broad-shouldered, athletic. I couldn't be sure of his ethnicity, but he was at least tan, maybe Hispanic or Middle Eastern. I was gaining on him as he rounded the far corner of Coleman Hall. But I knew, if he stopped just beyond that corner and waited, I'd be done. Running blind into that kind of setup is suicide. I'd have no time to react. Still, I didn't stop. I turned the corner hard and saw it. A van. Idling alone in the otherwise empty lot. As I came around the bend, its brake lights flicked on, then off, as it shifted from park to drive. He was headed straight for it. That moment was the most terrifying of the entire ordeal. I had fantasized about catching this guy, ending this nightmare. But now it was real. He was real. And he wasn't alone. I saw the side door of the van slide open as he sprinted toward it. There was someone waiting inside. No, two someones. One behind the wheel, one at the door. I knew, no matter how tough I thought I was, there's no beating three grown men already prepared to abduct and harm someone. No way. Not alone. But I couldn't stop running. Maybe I wanted answers. Maybe I wanted it to be over one way or another. Maybe I just didn't want to live scared anymore. He jumped, literally dove, into the open side of the van. No seats. Just open space. The second guy slammed the sliding door shut and the van screeched into motion, tearing out of the lot and disappearing into the night. I stopped cold. And so did my friends when they finally caught up. No one spoke. The testosterone was gone, replaced by shock. Did anyone get a plate number? Someone asked. No, not even me. It was too dark, and everything happened too fast. We started walking back, silent. But as we neared the spot where I should have met him, I saw something that terrified me more than anything else had so far. On the opposite side of the pillar he'd been crouching against, hidden from where I approached, was a tripod, a camcorder, still recording, pointed exactly at the spot I would have been standing. I didn't sleep that night. The noise from the apartment upstairs wasn't helping either. The kid up there was always hyper, always up late, especially the past couple nights. I would have complained, but me and my roommate mooch off their Wi-Fi. Except now the internet was out. Whatever. I was too exhausted to get up. But the ceiling creaked. Constant bouncing. Whispering. Mumbling. My roommate noticed too. He was getting concerned. I told him not to worry. Until the kid started hissing. Clawing at the floor. Playing animal noises at 1 a.m. Then came the crying. The moaning. The shouts. I swear I heard him say my name once. Gary? But maybe I was just sleep-deprived. Then, faintly, help me? And something else I couldn't catch. I told myself it was nothing, that I'd talk to the neighbors in the morning. Me and my roommate had just gotten back from breakfast when I asked him about the Wi-Fi. Maybe we could knock and ask the kids' parents. Oh, he said casually, grabbing leftover fries from the back seat. Didn't I tell you? He hadn't. The neighbors moved out last week. Hide and seek. The coats scratched against my skin as I squeezed into the hall closet, their musty scent pressing into my nose. But it was worth it. The better the hiding spot, the more time I got to myself. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling Reddit. Benjamin's muffled footsteps echoed through the dining room a few minutes later. I waited. When it sounded like he wasn't coming my way, I cracked the door open and called out, "You-hoo!" The footsteps grew louder, closer. His muffled giggles drifted toward me, then started heading up the stairs. What an idiot, I thought, grinning as I cracked the door further and saw his little feet vanish from the landing. More time for me. I leaned back into the coats and reopened Reddit. Then I heard it, his voice from upstairs. "Mommy?" He giggled. "Mommy, where are you?" I smiled. Hide and seek really was a genius invention. You got a few blessed minutes away from your child, and they entertain themselves, quiet by design. "You!" I started to call out again, but then I froze. A soft, Unfamiliar voice floated down from upstairs. You! It wasn't Benjamin. Panic rooted me in place. Benjamin and I were home alone. Someone was in the house. I burst out of the closet. Benjamin! I screamed, my voice cracking. Where are you? His footsteps pounded above me, his giggles trailing like smoke. But I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. My heart thudded so loudly it drowned everything else out. Benjamin! I screamed again, louder. Then his voice rang out. I see your feet. No. I tore up the stairs, nearly tripping over myself, and charged into his bedroom. Empty. His rocket-shaped bed sat rumpled. The embroidered stars on his sheets stared blankly at me. I checked the hallway. Empty. The guest room. Empty. The closet. Nothing but dust and old boxes. Only one room left. My bedroom. I ran inside and flicked on the light. Empty. The dirty laundry on the chair sat untouched. The wardrobe hung open. My pillows piled haphazardly. I crouched to check under the bed. Empty. Then softly, behind me, Mommy! Relief crashed over me. I turned and saw the bathroom door creaked open just a sliver. A single blue eye peeked out, wide with fear. I rushed over, yanked open the door, and grabbed him into my arms. His little body trembled against mine. But his eyes weren't on me. They were staring, horrified, at the spot just over my shoulder. I turned. The wardrobe. First, I saw nothing. Then, in the shadows below my hanging dresses, I saw them. 2 feet. They didn't belong to a child. They were too large, too wrong, skin-swollen, waterlogged. The nails were blackened, cracked. The flesh, a sickly grayish hue. My stomach flipped. There was no time to think. I ran. Benjamin clutched in my arms. I bolted into the hallway, down the stairs, and out the front door. I pounded on the neighbor's door, screaming for help. The police came. They searched the house. They found nothing. No signs of forced entry. They promised to patrol the neighborhood for a few days, but that was all they could do. I stayed at a friend's house for a while. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those feet, bloated, rotting, impossibly still. And then I remembered something. That wardrobe. I got it for free from a guy clearing out his deceased mother's house. Said she'd died suddenly. Said he just needed everything gone. And I can't stop wondering, how exactly did she die? The knife. I forced a smile and took the knife from Ron, careful not to let our fingers touch this time. No problem, I said. Glad I could help. He gave a polite nod and turned to leave, but before he stepped off the porch, he glanced back with a faint smile that made my blood run cold. Be careful with that, he said quietly. You never know what kind of trouble a sharp blade can get into. The door clicked shut behind me, but the chill lingered. I looked down at the knife and that's when I saw it. Carved into the wooden handle were small, intricate symbols. Subtle, nearly invisible unless the light hit just right. And somehow they made my stomach turn. I rushed to the kitchen and tossed the knife into the sink like it might burn me. But the feeling of dread clung to me. I tried to shake it off, tried to move on. But the accidents in the neighborhood kept happening. People were getting hurt. Freak incidents. A fire, a crash, a fall. And every time I realized Ron had recently borrowed something. A tool. A cup. The knife. Couldn't be coincidence. I started researching, desperate for answers. Late into the night, I combed obscure forums, old occult archives, anything I could find, and eventually I did. An old website deep in the web. It spoke of curse transference, an ancient practice of imbuing everyday objects with misfortune. The object becomes a carrier spread through touch, through lending. The more I read, the more it all clicked. Ron wasn't just a strange man. He knew what he was doing, and I had helped him. The knife. I had handed it to him. Horrified, I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. The next day, I went to his house. I didn't know what I was going to say. I just knew I had to do something. Ron answered the door with his usual calm expression, but there was something darker in his eyes now. Tom, he said smoothly, what can I do for you? I know what you've been doing, I whispered. The knife, the accidents, it's all you. He didn't deny it, just smiled that same unsettling smile. "You gave it to me," he said softly. "I just amplified its potential." My stomach dropped. "Why?" I asked, barely able to speak. He shrugged. "Some people have the gift, Tom. I didn't ask for it. But once you learn how to use it, it's hard to resist. Fascinating, isn't it? How something so simple can ruin everything." "This isn't a game," I snapped. "People are getting hurt." His smile faded, replaced with something colder. "I never said it was a game." I ran. I didn't wait for more. I bolted home, locked every door, and packed a bag. That night, I left the neighborhood and never went back. I don't know what became of Ron, or whether the accidents ever stopped. But sometimes, when I can't sleep, I still see that knife, see those symbols, and wonder how many more lives were shattered because of what I unknowingly passed on. The prepper. Our neighbor is a doomsday prepper, and lately I'm starting to think he might be right. Lovely day for the end of the world, ain't it? Those were the first words Saul ever said to me 3 years ago when we moved in. He was a stout man in his 30s with tired eyes and a voice like gravel. Odd, sure, but polite enough. I waved and introduced my family. "I'm Jennifer Collins. These are my twin boys, Austin and Clay. And the one hauling in the mattress is my husband, Brian." Behind Saul, I noticed his house, or bunker, rather. High fences, cameras, reinforced steel door, no windows. Just a silent concrete monolith. "I know what you're thinking," Saul said, reading my face. "It's okay. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. Until things start happening." Brian came over and gently pulled me away. "You've got a nice family," Saul added. "So I'll tell you something. There's something wrong with this town. Not the government. The real powers. Watch your back." We went inside and didn't see him again for a long time. 3 years passed. I assumed Saul had sealed himself in and moved on from the world. Until 2 weeks ago. He appeared in our driveway, dragging crates from the back of a pickup truck. His clothes were torn, his hair matted, but his eyes were focused, intense. "Should we help him, Mom?" Austin asked. Despite everything, I couldn't just ignore him. "Yes," I said. "Bless you," Saul muttered as Clay took a box. He opened his massive steel door, and for the first time we got a glimpse inside. The entryway was dim, cavernous. Cold air swept out, stale and mechanical. We followed him to the second lock. He turned and warned, "Don't touch anything." Inside, the place was part bunker, part armory. Military rifles lined one wall. Shelves of wires, acid, and poison flanked narrow corridors. The main room was marginally more livable: radio, old TV, food supplies, game consoles, but the overall feeling was one of isolation and madness. Beyond the kitchen were more storage rooms. Deeper still, a long hallway disappeared into the dark. "Just drop them here," Saul said. He pulled out a thick wad of cash from his wallet and tried to hand it to us. "You don't have to," I started. "Won't be any good soon," he interrupted, shoving it into Clay's hand. "You're good people. I hope you make it." I forced a smile and told him we had to go. Back home, Clay counted the money, wide-eyed. "There's nearly $10,000 here." I recounted it twice. It was real. "Mom," Clay asked, "do you think he's for real? About something happening?" I didn't have an answer. But that night, when the house was quiet and everyone asleep, I sat at the window. And for the first time since we moved here, I wished we had thicker walls. "I mean, do you think he's just disturbed?" Austin asked. "I think he's troubled, yes," I replied carefully. "But I don't think he means any harm." Still, I couldn't shake the unease. That kind of money, it had to be counterfeit. First thing the next morning, I took it to the local credit union to verify. I wasn't sure what unnerved me more, carrying that much cash or the look the clerk gave me when I asked for a check. 5 minutes later, a balding man in a suit came over and quietly ushered me into his office. Once the door was shut, he folded his hands and said, "Mrs. Collins, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I need you to tell me exactly where you got this money, and choose your words carefully. I've already contacted the bureau." Panic prickled through me like ice water. It was a gift from a neighbor. I didn't know it was anything unusual. I don't even know him that well, I stammered. The man studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I believe you, but you'll need to make that same statement when the agents arrive. I sat in that cold office for what felt like an eternity before two men in black suits and dark sunglasses entered the room. They didn't introduce themselves. We're going to record this interview, the man on the left said as they sat down. I need to call my husband, I said, trying to stay calm. He'll be worried. Also, my son has a medical condition. I need to give him his injection. This won't take long, the other replied. Let's begin. Tell us everything you know about Saul Ever. I opened my mouth but paused. Wait, how do you know his name? The two agents exchanged a glance. Ma'am, the first said, please answer the question. A chill ran down my spine. Everything in me screamed that something was wrong. I stood up, feigning urgency. Please, I just need to make one quick call. My son's health depends on it. They hesitated just long enough. I ducked into the women's restroom, locked the door, and looked around. A narrow window above the stall caught my eye. Using one of my heels, I pried it open and clambered through. Once outside, I texted Brian. Something's wrong. Heading home now. But the message wouldn't send. I tried calling static. My signal was blocked. I sprinted to the car and jumped in. As I fumbled with the ignition, I saw the two agents step outside. One of them had a gun. The glass of my back window shattered, and I screamed, slamming the car into reverse. They were aiming for my head. I don't remember how many curses flew out of my mouth as I tore out of that parking lot. Heart racing, phone still dead. I prayed Brian and the boys were okay. But when I got home, the house was empty. No signs of my family. I didn't know what else to do. I ran to Saul's property, my breath ragged, and pounded on the blast door. Tires screeched behind me. Those men were close. I could hear them on the stairs as Saul finally opened the door and yanked me inside. A bullet ricocheted off the steel just as he sealed us in. He looked at me long and hard, then sighed. Thought I could trust you. Looks like I'm falling into old habits. What the hell is going on? I shouted, chest heaving. Saul caught his breath. It's starting. End of the world. Part 2. My children, I said, voice breaking. Where are my kids? It was the only thing that mattered. I barely had the strength to say Brian's name next, but I did. Saul only shook his head, pacing, muttering something about nuclear fallout. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed him by the shoulders. I've been your neighbor for years. You never said a word about this. Now everything's falling apart. What is happening, Saul? He looked me in the eye. I told you, it's the end. That's what I've been preparing for. If you really believe that, then help me get to my family. Please. I still didn't fully believe his apocalypse story. Maybe he was a fugitive. Maybe the bunker was just a hideout. But I didn't care. I'd say anything if it meant getting my boys and my husband to safety. He paused, visibly torn, then gave a small nod. All right, he said. I'll go. Just me. It's not safe for you out there anymore. You don't have the training I do. I wanted to argue, but something in his voice stopped me. Instead, I watched him grab gear from the shelf, tactical military stuff, and head for the door. If things go south, use the walkie. Call Betty. She'll know what to do, he said over his shoulder. Then he was gone and I was alone. That waiting, silent, buried, powerless, was worse than anything. My mind spiraled with horrible images. Why hadn't I gone with him? Why did I trust him with everything? Then the walkie crackled. Red 19 to blue 13. What's your 20? Sounded like things got hot over there. My heart pounded. Was this Betty or someone else? I pressed the button, voice shaking. This is Jennifer Collins. I'm Saul's neighbor. A pause, then a sigh. Well, is Saul dead? No, ma'am, I stammered. At least I don't think so. He said something's happening. That it's starting now. Are you Betty? Yep, came the response. My name is Alan Pierce. I've lived at Riverside Apartments for 6 years now. It's a forgettable building, plain, aging, and quiet. The kind of place where people come and go without ever really meeting their neighbors. Nothing strange ever happened. At least not until she moved in. It was a warm spring evening when I first saw her. I was lugging groceries up the stairs, tired from a long shift, when I spotted a woman standing still in the hallway, facing a door. She was tall and thin, her black hair hanging in unkempt waves. Her clothes looked a size too large, a faded blue sweater and jeans that sagged at her hips. She stood there like she was trying to will the door to open. "Need help finding your place?" I asked, managing a polite smile. She turned to face me slowly. Her eyes were wide, too wide, and her face was completely blank, like I'd startled her awake. "Have you seen my house?" she asked. I blinked. "You mean your apartment?" She shook her head. "No, my house. It was here, but I can't find it." She was staring at the door to 4B, one of the vacant units. The last tenants had left a few months back, just picked up and vanished from what I'd heard. The building manager hadn't filled the place yet. "I think you're confused," I said gently. "This is an apartment building." She didn't respond, just turned back to the door, her brow furrowed like she was solving a riddle. I left her there and went into my place, for D, just a few steps away. But that night, as I lay in bed, her words echoed. "Have you seen my house?" Over the next week, I kept seeing her. She was always in the halls, never coming from or going into an apartment, just wandering. Her eyes darted like she was searching for something, always just missing it. She never introduced herself, never told anyone where she lived. Instead, she asked questions, frantic, nonsensical questions. "Where did my family go? Why won't the doors open? Have you seen the path back?" It started to unnerve me. I began taking the stairs at different times, avoiding the hallway if I heard footsteps. Something about her felt deeply wrong, like I was standing next to a drop-off I couldn't see. One night I came home late. The hallway lights were flickering again, casting jittery shadows across the walls. As I approached my door, I saw her. She was standing right outside it. Her back was to me, her posture stiff, as though she'd been there a while. "Hey!" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "What are you doing?" She turned and I took a step back. Her eyes were sunken, her face pale and drawn, like she hadn't slept in days. "Have you seen my house?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "This is my apartment," I said. "You're lost." "No," she said, shaking her head fast. "No, it was here. I lived here. My family was here. But now it's all wrong. None of the doors work anymore. I can't get back." I felt a rising panic in my chest. I took another step back. "Maybe you should talk to someone. The manager, he can help you." She didn't answer, just turned and walked away down the hall. I barely slept that night. Her words stuck with me. And then I remembered something. The family who'd lived in 4B, husband, wife, little girl. They hadn't just moved. They'd disappeared. No forwarding address. No explanation. The next day, I went to the office to talk to Mr. Daniels, the manager. He was a gruff, no-nonsense guy. "Do we have a new tenant on the 4th floor?" I asked. "No," he said without hesitation. "Not in months." "Why?" I told him about the woman. "There's no one new in this building, Alan," he repeated, his brow furrowed. "If someone moved in, I'd know." That night, I woke up to knocking. Soft at first, just a light tap at the door. Then harder, more insistent. I sat up in bed, listening. Then I crept to the peephole. No one was there. But the knocking didn't stop. It grew louder and louder, and then it stopped all at once. And then, a voice. Not from the door. From inside the building. From somewhere deep in the walls. "Have you seen my house?" I ran. I didn't stop for my coat, my shoes, nothing. I sprinted out into the cold night air and kept going until the apartment building was nothing but a dark blot in the distance. I never went back. Wherever she came from, that woman wasn't just looking for her home. She was looking for a way back to something that never should have existed in our world. A place she remembered but no longer belonged to. And I wasn't going to stick around to see what would happen when, if, she finally found her way in. My name is Alan Pierce. I've lived at Riverside Apartments for 6 years now. It's a forgettable building, plain, aging, and quiet. The kind of place where people come and go without ever really meeting their neighbors. Nothing strange ever happened. At least not until she moved in. It was a warm spring evening when I first saw her. I was lugging groceries up the stairs, tired from a long shift, when I spotted a woman standing still in the hallway, facing a door. She was tall and thin, her black hair hanging in unkempt waves. Her clothes looked a size too large, a faded blue sweater and jeans that sagged at her hips. She stood there like she was trying to will the door to open. "Need help finding your place?" I asked, managing a polite smile. She turned to face me slowly. Her eyes were wide, too wide, and her face was completely blank, like I'd startled her awake. "Have you seen my house?" she asked. I blinked. "You mean your apartment?" She shook her head. "No, my house. It was here, but I can't find it." She was staring at the door to 4B, one of the vacant units. The last tenants had left a few months back, just picked up and vanished from what I'd heard. The building manager hadn't filled the place yet. "I think you're confused," I said gently. "This is an apartment building." She didn't respond, just turned back to the door, her brow furrowed like she was solving a riddle. I left her there and went into my place, for D, just a few steps away. But that night, as I lay in bed, her words echoed. "Have you seen my house?" Over the next week, I kept seeing her. She was always in the halls, never coming from or going into an apartment, just wandering. Her eyes darted like she was searching for something, always just missing it. She never introduced herself, never told anyone where she lived. Instead, she asked questions, frantic, nonsensical questions. "Where did my family go? Why won't the doors open? Have you seen the path back?" It started to unnerve me. I began taking the stairs at different times, avoiding the hallway if I heard footsteps. Something about her felt deeply wrong, like I was standing next to a drop-off I couldn't see. One night I came home late. The hallway lights were flickering again, casting jittery shadows across the walls. As I approached my door, I saw her. She was standing right outside it. Her back was to me, her posture stiff, as though she'd been there a while. "Hey!" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "What are you doing?" She turned and I took a step back. Her eyes were sunken, her face pale and drawn, like she hadn't slept in days. "Have you seen my house?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "This is my apartment," I said. "You're lost." "No," she said, shaking her head fast. "No, it was here. I lived here. My family was here. But now it's all wrong. None of the doors work anymore. I can't get back." I felt a rising panic in my chest. I took another step back. "Maybe you should talk to someone. The manager, he can help you." She didn't answer, just turned and walked away down the hall. I barely slept that night. Her words stuck with me. And then I remembered something. The family who'd lived in 4B, husband, wife, little girl. They hadn't just moved. They'd disappeared. No forwarding address. No explanation. The next day, I went to the office to talk to Mr. Daniels, the manager. He was a gruff, no-nonsense guy. "Do we have a new tenant on the 4th floor?" I asked. "No," he said without hesitation. "Not in months." "Why?" I told him about the woman. "There's no one new in this building, Alan," he repeated, his brow furrowed. "If someone moved in, I'd know." That night, I woke up to knocking. Soft at first, just a light tap at the door. Then harder, more insistent. I sat up in bed, listening. Then I crept to the peephole. No one was there. But the knocking didn't stop. It grew louder and louder, and then it stopped all at once. And then, a voice. Not from the door. From inside the building. From somewhere deep in the walls. "Have you seen my house?" I ran. I didn't stop for my coat, my shoes, nothing. I sprinted out into the cold night air and kept going until the apartment building was nothing but a dark blot in the distance. I never went back. Wherever she came from, that woman wasn't just looking for her home. She was looking for a way back to something that never should have existed in our world. A place she remembered but no longer belonged to. And I wasn't going to stick around to see what would happen if she finally found her way in. We used to think accidents were behind us. Nothing bad had happened in over a year. That peace shattered when I woke to the sound of Stephen crying. Wet bed. Again. I was about to check on him when something made me glance at the clock. Saturday. We had gone to bed on Thursday. We'd slept for almost 24 hours straight, missing Friday entirely. Alex, go back to your room. I told my older son. Daddy needs to make a call. Then I'll come check on you, all right? I jotted the missing day on the kitchen calendar with a shaking hand, then reached for my phone. No bars. Not a flicker of signal. Oh God. We slept through the whole day, I muttered. My wife stirred. What? She asked, her voice groggy with confusion. She rolled over to check her own phone. I don't know, I said, staring at the screen in disbelief. It doesn't make any sense. That man. He's still out there crying. Where are the police? She asked. Their car's still there. But they're gone. She was right. The patrol car was still parked at the curb, untouched. But no one was inside. No one was anywhere. We both knew something was deeply wrong. It hit us then. The soaked bed, our bursting bladders, the crushing fatigue. It wasn't just sleep. We'd been sedated, forced into unconsciousness while the day passed us by, helpless under the weight of whatever had claimed our street. Still, we were parents. And even in chaos, parents think first of their kids. We cleaned Stephen's bed while whispering about our next steps. One by one, we tried our phones, then laptops, routers, everything. Dead. Even the television was nothing but static. Try the old TV, Joanna suggested. I turned it on. Static hissed, then shifted. There was a faint image. The silhouette of a man standing in the middle of the screen. No features, no movement, just standing. And below him, one line of text. Come outside. How is it doing that? Joanna whispered, panic creeping into her voice. I don't know, I said, my voice tight, but going outside is a terrible idea. We peeked through the curtains. Across the street, our neighbor stumbled out of his house, dazed. He was holding a baseball bat, shouting threats at the crying figure. I'm going to **** you up, he bellowed. I opened the window to warn him, but it was already too late. The moment he reached the man, the sobbing stopped. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Then, laughter. High-pitched, manic, and overwhelming. It didn't just echo outside. It sounded like it was inside our walls, inside us. The noise knocked us to the floor. It was unbearable. Close the window, Joanna screamed. I did. It made no difference. The laughter grew and grew until we thought we'd go insane. And then, it stopped. Silence again. What was that? Alex sobbed, clinging to Joanna. It's okay, honey, she whispered, hugging both children tightly. Stay away from the windows, all right? I finally found the courage to look outside again. Our neighbor was gone. In his place was a trail of blood and broken flesh that led back to the crying man, who had resumed his sobbing like nothing had happened. He's gone, I whispered, even though we all already knew. That night, we didn't speak. We barely moved, just waited for sunrise, praying that it would come and bring with it a way out. The kids, still too young to understand the full weight of what was happening, clung to us. They believed we could protect them. I envied their faith. I no longer shared it. We sat in the kitchen, nibbling what food we had. Then, just as the first orange light touched the horizon, blackness. My legs gave out. I fell unconscious before I hit the floor. We awoke at midnight again. Another day lost. This time, even our backup devices were dead. Phones, laptops, even the backup generator, nothing worked. We had only a few wristwatches to tell us time was still passing. The crying continued, louder now, but it had changed. It didn't sound like fear anymore. It sounded manipulative, like it wanted us to come closer. The more we hear it, Joanna whispered, the less human it sounds. Let's turn the lights on, she added. This is creeping me the hell out. I tried. Nothing. The entire house, the whole neighborhood, was dark. Why hasn't anyone come to help us? She asked. I had no answer, just a sick feeling in my gut. That night, 3 more neighbors stepped outside. We watched them go. No shouting, no panic. Just blank expressions and slow, measured steps toward the man. Then the laughter, their deaths, and silence again. It wasn't until the 3rd night that I began to understand. This was by design. Whatever was happening to us, it wanted us isolated. It wanted us confused. It wanted us to break. And worse, it was working. The crying had changed again. It was no longer horrifying. It was sad, pitiful even. There was a part of me that wanted to help him. I knew it was wrong, but the urge was there. I think it's time to go outside, Joanna said flatly one night, standing. No, I said, grabbing her arm. Think about the kids. They need us. She blinked. Her trance broke. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't myself, she whispered, trembling. But her clarity didn't last. I was cleaning up leftovers when I heard the front door unlock. The boys were asleep. Joanna was already halfway out. I'm sorry, she said. Then darkness claimed me again. By the time I woke, she was gone. A dark trail of blood led from our porch to the crying man, who had resumed his sobs without pause. I didn't call her name. I knew it was pointless. That was 4 nights ago. We've run out of power. The food will last maybe a week. But I doubt we'll be here that long. My boys, even they've started asking about going outside. Even they are hearing it, feeling it. I'm using what's left of a power bank to write this. No signal, no guarantee it'll go anywhere. But if someone finds it, someone reads it, please, send help. I don't know how much longer I can resist the cries.